Hey everyone, you probably were expecting someone else here. So, hi, I'm Zinan, and I'm a video editor and a videographer for ASTRA. I'm pretty new here, so you probably haven't seen my face around, and therefore this is also kind of an experiment, so bear with me. I want to tell you about the upgrades that we're making to Karma 2.0 after we were unable to launch at Euroc last year. There's a whole lot that has changed, so let's get right into it. First off, let me explain why our system could use some improvement. If you think back to Karma 1, you'll remember that we had a thrust goal of 2.5 kilonewtons. And one of the main reasons that Karma 1 didn't get to launch at Euroc was that we had a really low thrust-to-weight ratio.
I don't know what the hell you feeding him, but he is too damn big!
This means Karma 1 was just too heavy and would have been too slow off the rail, which would have led to aerodynamic instability during flight. Therefore, one of the first steps of our new design is to radically rethink our propulsion system. Starting off, we have a new goal. 6 kilonewtons of thrust with a specific impulse of 200 seconds, which is 2.5 times more thrust than on Karma 1. With this extra thrust and a shortened burn duration of only 6 seconds, we're expecting Karma to reach 9 kilometers of altitude and compete at the hybrid 9 kilometer category at Euroc. Oh, and we also want to cut mass on Karma 1, so we have quite an engineering challenge ahead of us.
Bring it on.
Let's talk about another reason why Karma needs to change for our next attempt at Euroc. The basic answer is easy, really. Karma 1 was built with the goal in mind to later reuse parts in our planned rocket Transcendence, which is going to reach the Kármán line and go to actual space. That sort of created a whole host of problems for Karma 1. Everything we worked on had to be designed for both sizes, so you always had to go back and forth between the small diameter and the big diameter, and everything was just really tedious. This inevitably led to there being way more mass on the rocket than was necessary, which also contributed to our thrust-to-weight ratio problems. In addition, we also kind of naively designed our propulsion system to have a burn duration of 10 seconds, which is more similar to what our space shuttle rocket Transcendence would need. Obviously, that doesn't really work well for a rocket going to only 3 kilometers, but you know, hindsight is 2020. So, we went back to the drawing board for Karma 2.0. And Karma 2 is now being designed to just be Karma 2 and not any other rocket. That also means that our diameter is going to be smaller this time, as we're not planning to reuse parts in Transcendence. This is the first major improvement to our propulsion system, because we can reuse the combustion chamber from Karma 1. Now, that might seem a bit strange, because I said we had a bigger diameter on Karma 1. Well, let me explain. Since the motor design for Transcendence would have been way too strong for our humble Karma, we had already designed a system that was not as strong and would work better on a smaller rocket. This system, however, led to a bunch of problems in Karma 1, which we are now fixing in Karma 2. This problem, namely, was that the diameter of the outer hull of the rocket was bigger than the diameter of the combustion chamber. This therefore led to the combustion chamber not making contact with the outer walls. If you think about it, the combustion chamber kinda needs to make contact with the outer walls so it can transfer the pressure created inside, lest the combustion chamber may expand and burst, which is not ideal, I would say. At first, we created a workaround for this. We cast these special aluminum rings which had these feet on the outside, and whenever the combustion chamber would expand, it would expand against the rings and the feet would press against the hull. This worked pretty well, and the rocket worked. The major drawback was that, in the context of rocketry, aluminium is extremely heavy, and we didn't plan for these rings initially, so that means that Karma 1 was already much heavier than we anticipated.
Oh, this is heavy.
In the end, we settled for a different solution. We lined the combustion chamber with fiberglass, eliminating the need for it to make contact with the outer hulls, because the fiberglass would just directly hold the pressure inside the combustion chamber. This was lighter than the aluminum rings, as you can imagine, but it also left a lot of empty space inside the rocket body. And additionally, it was still heavier than we actually planned. However, now that Karma 2 has a much smaller diameter, there is no need for any external structures around the combustion chamber, and we can put it right up against the outer walls, allowing it to directly transfer the pressure. Just making this small modification allows us to cut more than 20 kilograms off of Karma 2's mass budget. This comes mostly from the scaled down bulkheads as well as the removal of any external structures around the combustion chamber. This is not the only change we're making though. Since Karma 2 is intended to have 2.5 times more thrust than Karma 1, we also needed to change some things about what goes on inside the combustion chamber. Karma 2 is still a hybrid rocket, so we need a solid fuel and an oxidizer in a liquid state to react with each other. And as an oxidizer, we are still using nitrous oxide, or N2O. In order to increase the thrust, we increased the flow of N2O through the bulkhead from 1.1 kilograms per second on Karma 1 to 2.3 kilograms per second on Karma 2, more than doubling the flow rate. That sadly also requires a bigger valve, which ended up adding 1.5 kilograms to our mass budget. In addition to the new valve, we also needed a new injector, and if you remember back to last year, you will recall that we actually built our own injector by buying a steel plate and machining holes into it. That is what's called a showerhead style injector, where the flow goes right through. We also tried to create impinging holes by machining holes into bolts, which we then screwed into the steel plate, but it only sort of worked. Impinging style injectors have a little more efficiency than showerhead style ones because they help to atomize the nitrous oxide, which in turn enhances the mixing inside the combustion chamber. Last year we were more concerned with making stuff actually work than optimizing it. So this year we have a lot of optimizing to do on Karma 2. Circling back now, since Karma 1 had a larger diameter, there was more space to put holes into the injection plate. Karma 2 has a smaller diameter and needs more holes than Karma 1 to sustain the high flow of N2O.
That doesn't make no sense. My man.
Well, Karma 2's injection plate has about 3 times as many holes as Karma 1's and only uses double self-impinging holes. Now, you might ask, how do we achieve that? Well, we just paid a lot more money to get these machined by a professional machinist. It looks super pretty though, doesn't it? I think we definitely got our money's worth on this one.
Nice.
After the combustion chamber comes the nozzle, and we're still using the same design as for Karma 1, albeit a bit larger to match the increased flow rates. Most importantly here, the choke point of the nozzle, or the neck, needed to be larger as it is the main factor limiting flow rates. Additionally, the nozzle for Karma 2 will also no longer be self-made, or well, self-cast. Yeah, it's right, we need to move on from a beautiful... That's right, we need to move on from a beautiful hand-cast bronze nozzle. If you remember, in the last propulsion testing campaign, our bronze nozzle actually melted, and we don't want to have that again. Since we're already scaling up our system, it seems prudent to switch to steel, which is far more thermally resistant than bronze. However, there is another major change that we're making to our nozzle that I haven't talked about yet. We're splitting our nozzle into 2 parts, with one part mounting up directly against the combustion chamber and the lower part mounting to that. You might ask, why are we adding this seemingly unnecessary complication? Well, there's 2 reasons really. For one, we really want to reduce mass as much as possible, but we also just want the steel part to be the one that is making contact with the hot exhaust flow. Every other part of the nozzle, and specifically the parts mounted against the combustion chamber, can be made out of aluminum, as it is 1/3 the mass of steel. This is where we got the idea for a 2-part nozzle design. The second reason, with a nozzle split between the mount and the expansion section, we can change the expansion ratio without machining too many new parts. Again, we're not machining these ourselves this year, it's back to the professionals and the magic of a 5-axis CNC mill. In terms of thermal protection, we're going to be using a graphite inlay at the nozzle's neck to protect the nozzle itself from the heat. Furthermore, we have a Pertinex inlay at the inlet of our nozzle, which is ablative and will protect our nozzle mount from getting vaporized. We also have one more special feature at the end of our combustion chamber, which, at least theoretically, should be the key to getting some higher performance from Karma. Last year we noticed that a lot of paraffin wax, our solid fuel, was just getting blown out of the rocket without reacting with the nitrous oxide. The reaction between solid fuel and oxidizer is not instantaneous, it happens over time. And, over time, the paraffin wax slowly melts and mixes with the N2O, causing the actual reaction. Without a post-combustion chamber, our paraffin wax didn't have enough time to mix, which dramatically reduced our combustion efficiency. To fix this, you already heard it, Drum roll. We now have a post-combustion chamber. The post-combustion chamber is just an open area that comes after the wax, and it hopefully encourages our paraffin to mix better with the N2O. We're hoping this will improve our combustion efficiency values, but we'll only really be able to verify that once our propulsion testing campaign starts. That's it. We're making a lot of changes to Karma 2, and it's really exciting. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, and of course, expand your horizons.